Have you ever had that feeling? You put your keys on the table, you turn around for a split second, you turn back, and they're gone. You search the entire house. Nothing. 10 minutes later, you look at that same table, and there they are, sitting exactly where you left them. We laugh it off. We call it forgetfulness. We call it being tired. But deep down, in the back of your reptile brain, a tiny voice is screaming something else. It's screaming that reality just blinked. Physicists are starting to whisper about this. They aren't calling it magic anymore. They're calling it simulation theory. The idea that what we see, touch, and feel is just a render, and like any complex software, sometimes it bugs out. Today, we aren't looking at ghost stories. We are looking at documented instances where the laws of physics simply decided to take a lunch break. These are the 5 glitches in reality that science is terrified to touch. Let's start with the one that breaks the internet. The Mandela effect. You probably know the basics. Half the world remembers Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s. They remember the funeral. They remember the riots. The other half knows he died a free man in 2013. But this goes deeper than just misremembering a politician. It's about collective memory that defies recorded history. It's about the Fruit of the Loom logo having a cornucopia that never existed. It's about that movie Shazam starring Sinbad that millions of people saw, but was never made. Skeptics call it confabulation, a fancy word for your brain making stuff up to fill the gaps. But there is a more disturbing theory. It involves the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. When we started smashing particles together at near light speed, some theorists believe we didn't just find the Higgs boson. They believe we actually shifted our reality into a parallel track. We merged 2 timelines. In one timeline, the cornucopia exists. In this one, it doesn't end your brain. It's holding on to the cache files from the old server. If you think a logo change is weird, what happens when a person glitches into the wrong world? July 1954, Haneda Airport, Tokyo. A well-dressed businessman lands. He walks up to customs. He hands over his passport. It looks authentic. It has stamps from all over the world. But the issuing country says Taured. The customs officer pauses. There is no country called Taured. The man is confused. He says it's in Europe, right between France and Spain. He's been traveling from there for years. They give him a map. He points to Andorra. He gets angry. He says, "Why does this map say Andorra? My country has existed for 1,000 years. The authorities think he's a spy or a lunatic. They lock him in a hotel room high up in the building. 2 armed guards stand outside the door all night. No balcony. No escape. The next morning, they open the door to interrogate him. The room is empty. He's gone. His passport, which was locked in the airport safe, gone. It's as if the system realized there was an error code and just deleted him. Maybe that sounds like an urban legend to you. So let's look at something reproducible in a lab. The double slit experiment. This is the grandfather of reality glitches. When we fire particles through 2 slits, they behave like waves. They create an interference pattern, but the exact moment we put a camera there to watch which slit they go through, they stop acting like waves. They start acting like solid matter, like little bullets. Think about that. The universe changes its behavior because you are looking at it. This is exactly how video games work to save processing power. The computer doesn't render the room behind you until you turn around to look at it. It's called frustum culling. Quantum physics suggests our reality does the exact same thing. Matter exists in a state of probability, a fuzzy cloud of maybe, until a conscious observer forces it to choose a state. We aren't just living in the universe. We are rendering it frame by frame. If space can glitch, what about time? In 1901, two respected academics, Charlotte Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, were visiting the Palace of Versailles in France. They were walking through the gardens of the Petit Trianon. It was a dull, gray afternoon. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed. They described a heavy, dreamlike oppression. The wind stopped. The birds stopped singing. Even the trees looked flat, like a painting. They walked past a bridge that didn't exist in 1901. They saw people wearing strange, old-fashioned costumes, tricorn hats, and buckled shoes. But it wasn't a reenactment. The people looked confused to see them. Moberly claimed she saw Marie Antoinette herself, sitting on the grass, sketching. Then, a man with a pockmarked face ran up to them, shouting instructions in an older dialect of French. Suddenly, the oppression lifted. The modern world snapped back. The bridge vanished. The people vanished. They had walked through a hole in 1901 and fallen into 1789. We trust our eyes, but what about our ears? Since the 1970s, thousands of people around the world in Bristol, in Taos, in Windsor have been driven mad by the hum. It's a low-frequency droning sound, like a diesel engine idling just down the street, but there is no engine. You can't record it with normal microphones. You can't block it with earplugs. It seems to bypass the ear and vibrate directly in the skull. Doctors call it tinnitus. But tinnitus is personal. This is local. People in the same town hear it at the same time. Some have committed suicide to escape it. Scientists have blamed industrial fans, high-pressure gas lines, even fish mating calls. But none of the explanations cover every case. It stops at the county line. It starts up at 3 a.m. It's ground mechanical. Is it possible we are hearing the machinery of the simulation? The background processing, the cooling fans of the server that runs our reality. Finally, the most scientific glitch of all, the one that keeps astronomers up at night. We are taught that the speed of light is constant. It's the universal speed limit. It never changes. That is the bedrock of Einstein's theory of relativity. But recent measurements suggest that the speed of light might actually be fluctuating. It might have been faster in the early universe. If the speed of light changes, then our estimates of the age of the universe are wrong. Our understanding of gravity is wrong. It means the constants of nature aren't constant. They are variables. And variables are things you can tweak. Who is tweaking them? Why does the universe seem so perfectly fine-tuned for life that even a 0.0001% change in gravity would crush us all? It feels like a sandbox mode where someone set the parameters to just right. When you look at these glitches individually, you can dismiss them. A misremembered logo. A hallucination in a garden. A weird noise. But when you put them together, a pattern emerges. Memory errors. Rendering issues. Processing noise. Variable constants. These are not features of an organic, biological reality. These are features of a digital one. If we are in a simulation, the scariest question isn't, is it real? The scariest question is, what happens when the user gets bored? What happens when they decide to reboot the system? Maybe that's what the Mandela effect is. A soft reboot. A patch update. They change the logo. They change the death date. They're testing how much they can alter before we notice. I want you to do something for me right now. Look at the closest object to you. Stare at it. Really stare at it. Does it feel solid? Or does it feel like it's just waiting for you to look away? I want you to go down to the comments and tell me, what is the one glitch you've experienced that you've never told anyone because it sounded too crazy? I read every single one. And if you want to keep peeling back the layers of this reality, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We might never know the truth. Or maybe, just maybe, we aren't supposed to know. Because if the characters in the video game realize they're in a game, the game stops being fun. And you don't want the player to turn off the console. Until next time, stay glitchy.